And we're live. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Stripe Dev Chats. I'm your host today, Cecil Phillip, and I'm joined with my co-host, Paul. And if you've been watching us for the entire month of September, you might have noticed that what we've been doing is we've been dedicating the entire month to learning about Stripe Checkout, which, again, and I've been saying this over and over again, in my opinion, is one of the easiest ways for you to get started with accepting payments in your applications. And so, throughout the month, we've had tons of different folks from program managers, advocates, developers, community members, everyone kind of talking about, what their experience is like using this product. But today, with it being the last Wednesday in September and the last time we're going to be doing this for the month, we brought on a very special guest, Shawn Wang, who's going to be talking to us about how he uses Stripe Checkout in some of his personal products. So, Shawn, why don't you introduce yourself really quick? Tell folks who you are and a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, thanks, Cecil. Hi, I'm Shawn. I am a developer and writer and just general indie hacker. And I have been mostly working on front end and serverless, dev tools companies as a developer advocate. I was an engineer at Two Sigma, but quickly moved on to Netlify, AWS, Temporal, and now at Airbyte. And on the side, I do a lot of writing and developer community work. I was the moderator of the React subreddit, and then I started Svelte Society, and that went up to quite a few thousand people. And then I started writing my own books, just dabbling into actually making money with the side hustle for the first time, and that's how I came across Stripe Checkout.
Well, Shawn, I've been following you on Twitter for like a little while now, and I've seen some of your conference talks and some of the projects that you worked on. So we're really happy that you're here, and I'm really interested to seeing how like you're actually plugging that stuff into like some of your side hustles. But before we do that, what I want to do is I want to switch over to my screen, and we usually start off the show with showing some highlights about what has happened in the world of Stripe. So why don't we kick off with that first, really quickly, and then we'll just kind of dive into your topic. And see how you're using Stripe Checkout. Now, first thing I want to share with folks, like I mentioned, like this is Checkout Month here on Stripe Dev Chats. And so here's our landing page that we've had. So here you can see all the different events that we've had so far. If you're interested in coming on and seeing, any of these past events that have already happened, make sure you head over to our Stripe Developer YouTube channel. I know some of y'all are looking at us on YouTube, but we're also on Twitch and Twitter and some other places. So make sure you subscribe to our Stripe Developer YouTube channel and definitely go ahead and check out some of those other videos that we have up there. In addition to talking about our Stripe Developer YouTube channel, one of our teammates, CJ, has created a really cool series talking about the fundamentals of SaaS. It actually heavily relies on some of the features of Stripe Checkout, in addition to some of the other products we have like Stripe Billing and so on and so forth. So if you're building SaaS companies or working for SaaS businesses as a developer or as a CTO or whatever your function might be, make sure you definitely go ahead and check out CJ's series as he kind of goes through some of the things you might want to be thinking about from a technology perspective. Next one, over on dev.to, we have a little Stripe organization, I guess is what we can call it. And so over there, we write a lot of blog posts about some of the different things that, we're playing around with and, some of the things we think are really cool. And our teammate, Matt Lang, has this really cool blog post about integration testing with Playwright. So if you're not familiar with what Playwright is, it's kind of similar to Selenium. If you want to do automated testing for your UIs, this is, just another open source option to be able to do that. But with this one, I think it works with JavaScript, it works with Python, it works with .NET, it works with Java, it works with a lot of different programming languages. So, whatever stack that you're on, you should be able to use Selenium for your tests. But anyway, in this post, Matt talks about how you can do integration testing with the payment elements, which is, one of the web components that we have available at Stripe. And yeah, definitely recommend you head over to our dev.to.org and check
so what makes Playwright so interesting, especially, and useful especially when it comes to checkout and payment elements, is that it uses the DevTools API rather than a regular JavaScript DOM, which means that you can actually interact with iframes, which you couldn't do before with other testing framework, which means that for the first time ever, you can actually do an end-to-end test with the payment element and with checkout, because those exist in iframes. And before this, you couldn't actually do those kind of testing with Stripe products, but now you can with Playwright. So definitely check this out if you're looking to improve your testing story.
Yeah, for sure. Paul, have you played around with this a little bit?
I have, yes.
Have you?
Tell.
Nice. I feel like we need to have a dev chat about Playwright at some point. We need to get someone on to come on and talk about it.
It is super cool. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, for sure. Let's make sure we get that taken care of. And the last post, obviously Paul's on the show, so I gotta pump him up a little bit. So Paul also wrote this really cool blog post, designing API for humans, which is a series that he's running here on dev.to. And in this particular one, he's talking about error messages. And instead of me rambling about it, since we have the author here, I figured the author may as well talk about his blog post.
Yeah, so this is a series that I'm doing. I'm unsure how many parts it's going to be just yet. This is basically me thinking about how we do things at Stripe and how we think about APIs in general. And this particular blog post is about error messages, which is, I think, a hugely underappreciated side of API design. And the kind of TLDR of the article is that I think we should spend more time on building friendly error messages, so that's because for many developers the API is the first touch, the thing that they interact with the most, and having a good error message story means that you have a better learning story as well, because many people prefer to not read the docs but just hack around with your API and figure out how things work that way. So having good error messages puts them on the right path much sooner. And I talk about in the article a couple of it starts off with a really bad error message, and we kind of slowly over the course of the article, we build it up until we have what I would consider to be a good error message at the end,
right,
which is both concise and has all the information that you would need to fix the error.
Yeah, one of the things I like about blog posts like these is that I find as developers, particularly when we look at the beginner level content, we always talk about the happy path, right? Like return this message and this is what the body looks like. But then we never really talk about the content types and the structure of the error messages, right? Like, oh, we'll just send back a bad status code, but what does that mean? What happened? Like where did it happen, right? And then also thinking about, well, how much information do I want to give back to the client versus how much do I want to keep internal and log in my my own systems for my own triaging purposes, right? So again, I love blog posts like these that kind of start talking about how some of this stuff works. So again, folks, like I mentioned, a lot of this stuff you can head over to our Stripe organization on dev.to. Also remember to head over to our Stripe YouTube channel, and you can subscribe to a lot of the content that our developer advocates on the team are creating. Now, with that being said, this is the part where I always say this is no longer the Cecil show. This is the Shawn show. And so, Shawn, why don't we start off with you talking to us about what are some of the projects that you were working on, and what were some of the needs that you had in terms of payment processing?
Wow, interesting question. So I'm coming at this from a point of view of the indie hacker, right? Obviously we use we use all sorts of payment processing at the various companies that I worked at, but I never had to do that work myself. It was always someone else's job, and so I never really had to use Stripe for that. I think a lot of people admire Stripe from afar, but because they don't run a business, they never really have the chance to touch it. So I think the real interaction was when I decided that COVID had hit. I was between jobs, and I was like, what's a fun project that I can work on that's tractable, and I decided to start selling an info product online. And I think that was, I think very much what I'm focusing on here is people who want to make their first dollar online with Stripe, and to basically dip their foot in the water. I think a lot of people start off wanting to build SaaS businesses because SaaS is all the rage, and isn't it nice to have passive recurring revenue? But obviously software is expensive to write and maintain, and it's actually a lot easier. And people are a little bit tired of subscription fatigue. You know what I mean? My God, here's another thing that I have to pay $5 a month until the end of time until I cancel it. People like the one-off purchases if it's well scoped. And so I really want to encourage people, if you're getting started with your indie hacker journey and you've done the free stuff for a while, you want to dip your toe in the paid stuff, write a book, make a course, anything that's one-off purchase. People have a budget for that and have an appetite for it. and you'll be surprised how many people want something that is that people put more than a day of effort into, like so I think there's different categories of content. Like there's live streams like the one that we're on right now, where it's very casual. We're not doing a ton of prep. There's blog posts that maybe you do a little bit more prep. There's talks where maybe you prepare for a couple of weeks beforehand, and then there's courses and books that actually take months to prepare. But that kind of quality of effort actually improves the learning capability of a lot of people. So I encourage you to just experiment with all these forms of content creation.
What I like about what you said, it kind of reminds me of a conversation I was having with a developer just a couple of weeks ago. And it was I've gotten to a certain point in my career, or they've gotten to a certain point in their career. And they're like, I don't really want to manage people, but I kind of want to stay, I want to become like a individual contributor for like the rest of my career. That's what I want to do. But after you get to a certain point, well, it's like, well, what other options do I have, right? And I think the idea of creating courses, writing books, and like creating content to not only obviously financially support yourself, but also help other people learn and share your knowledge with other people is a really good option for a lot of folks, right? I mean, outside of that, I think there's tons of really cool benefits from it. But just in general, a lot of folks don't really think about that as, oh, hey, I don't have to only do this thing for my company, right? Like I can have these other options just in case of, I don't know, just in case I got fired. And I'm sure we saw a lot of folks got moved around a little bit this past year. What's the thing that I'm going to have that's going to make sure that I'm in a stable place, or a relatively stable place, just in case bad things happen? So I really like that idea of having like those additional sources of income.
Yeah, I think there's some surveys out there that talk about, the long tail of product creation. The vast majority of people never really make it to replace their full-time income, but it's a bit of a chicken and egg. If you didn't put the effort, of course you're not going to replace full-time income. But then also there's some people, there's a lot of luck in this business. So for sure. So all I will say is sometimes the ambition can just get some beer money, get some like whatever, like it pays for the rent. There's the different levels of making it that aren't that ambitious, that proportionately scale down the amount of effort that you're going to put into this thing, that actually make it tractable, that you're actually going to do it rather than talk about doing it or think about doing it. So I highly encourage people to try it out. I think also, you said something about it's a backup in case you get laid off. Yes, obviously that's the most drastic situation, but sometimes it's just a proof to yourself that you have independent value of the company that you work at, right? And that actually helps when just negotiating, just saying, when you're interviewing for a new job and they have an offer in front of you and it's like not as much as you hoped, and you have this other side hustle that's like making you like $1,000, $2,000 a month. You're like, okay, like I could do this job, or I could pour more time into my side hustle and make it more of a thing. It actually gives the presence of an alternative makes you a much better negotiator than 1,000 negotiation blog posts from Patrick McKenzie.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. So I'm curious. So like you said, like you've worked for a few companies, and you've been in the industry for a little bit. What was the thing that had you say, hey, I want to start, experimenting with like some of my own, side projects and things like that?
Yeah, I have a tweet. I can point to a tweet. Okay, if you want to switch to the screen.
Yeah, your screen is up right now.
This is Daniel Vassallo. And, the world locked down in March 2020. Naval tweets this, and it's never a better time to launch a digital product because everyone's at home. Daniel says, if you're tempted by this, my advice to first-time product creators is to start a very small product, something you can finish in 2 weeks and charge $10 for it. The experience of getting paid for something you created directly by consumers will change you forever, right? So I thought it was like a good prompt. Like, I was already getting like kind of primed for this. I had been listening to the Indie Hacker podcast for like 4 years. I admired Peter Levels for many years. So this is just the thing that gave me the kick in the pants that I needed to actually try it instead of just think about it and like, haha, nice, and so this was in April 2020. I said April 2020. I said yes, sir. I committed to to doing that, and I think on April the same day, I announced that I was writing a book. I put up an empty PDF and said, "Here's the direction I'm going. Here's the blog post. And if you want pre-sales for the book, I'm putting up 100 copies for 50% off of an empty PDF, just to see, like, you know, I think pre-selling makes you committed because people already give you money for it. Obviously, you can return the money if you end up not finishing, but it's just a little test of, like, you know, the desire for this. But a little, I just wanted to dabble a little bit, and I talked about, like, why now, what topics I'm going to cover, and then and then the link and the call to action, and that's it. I think you don't need a lot more than that to get started.
And did you get 100 people who bought it for 50% off?
Yeah. So awesome. So this is the announcement tweet, and then it was at 1:29 p.m. At 3:34 p.m. half the pre-sales were gone. It's just like the first $1,000. Yeah. And then at 8:50 p.m. it was all out of pre-sales. So I think, like, the time limitation, like the making it clear that there's only 100 of these, and, like, it's the cheapest you'll ever get it. Some people just like to support you, and if they like your like what you've been doing, even if they never get the book, they just want to throw some money your way.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So what I'm curious about, and again, thinking about, like, conversations I've had with other people, how did you choose the thing that you were going to do, right? Because, again, I talked to a lot of other developers, and they're like, okay, sure, I want to do something. Like, I want to do a podcast. I want to write a book. I want to build a thing, but I don't know what's, right? And I don't know what people think that I have that could be valuable, right? So, like, what's your process? Like, what did you have in your head to be like, this is the topic that I'm going to focus on?
Oh, that's interesting. So I actually put it up to a poll that I then deleted. Yeah, I can't show it to you now because I deleted it.
That's fine. It's all good.
But what were some of the options in the poll?
Yeah, exactly. It was basically topics. I decided on writing a book. So it was just like, what was the book going to be about? And the major fork in my mind was, should I write a technical book or should I write a non-technical book? Right. And I ended up choosing a non-technical book. The technical books have an audience because people can justify for their jobs. And if they have a budget for learning at their companies, easy, no decision, just, throw the money on this thing. It's going to help me get better at TypeScript. It was going to be a TypeScript book. And I had some authority on that because I've been doing React TypeScript cheat sheet for a couple years. And so that's, by the way, that's what I advise a lot of people. There's 37,000 stars on this thing. Do stuff for free, and then create the paid tier, and then people who like your free stuff will just naturally help you migrate to the paid tier, right? So I knew I wasn't going to be starting from zero if I had written this book, and it was gonna do well. The thing was, I didn't really want to write it. I thought that I had done all this for free anyway, and if I was just going to take up the free stuff and then just bundle it into a paid book, it wasn't going to be the best thing. And personally, my interest had actually moved on from React, and so I wasn't that keen on building a brand further in React anymore. So that's why I decided I went for the riskier non-technical option, because I just wanted to try it and see what happens. And that was essentially it. Like, I think the other thing about the poll. So in the poll, I had a third option as well. I don't remember the third option. In the poll, the most number, so the React TypeScript thing was winning by like 66% of the votes. But the most amount of write-ins were all about the non-technical stuff, all the career advice, strategies, tech strategy stuff. So I think there's a difference between, like, people lazily clicking on a poll and people writing in to tell you that this is the thing that they want. And so I kind of took that as a sign that, like, people know that it's not going to be the popular one, but it's a thing that they want enough to write to me to tell me about it. I should, try it out, and it's a better fit for my interests. I should try it out. So that was really pretty much the extent of the decision making there.
Got it. And so now, after you've made your decision, and like, okay, you're gonna write this book, I'm sure you have like some schedule, like you're carving out time and you're saying, hey, I want to publish this by this date. These people are pre-ordering and those types of things. Outside of those folks that I guess seen you on Twitter and other places, like how did you publish it? right? Like, how did you actually create the product? Like, is it, did you self-publish? Is it on Amazon?
Oh yeah.
Like how did, like, what was that process like?
It was entirely self-published. This is the this is where I bring up the so there's a so do you guys know the Rails tutorial?
Are
Michael
you talking
Hartle?
about Go Rails? Is that what you're talking about? Or
Michael Hartle. Railstutorial.org.
oh no, I've never seen this one.
This is one of the well-regarded books out there on teaching Rails, and it's a website and it's a book, right? 883 pages, amazing.
Right.
Well, it turns out that the guy who wrote it actually open sourced his stack for building the book and the site, called Softcover. So I just did a bunch of research into like publishing processes, and and I ended up using Softcover, and it's just a Rails app, unsurprisingly, and here it is. And so all you just write a bunch of markdown files.
Mhm.
I made a README with my table of contents. All these were black in at the beginning, and I slowly, day by day, turned the black links into blue links.
That's amazing.
And how long was this process for you for writing the book?
Yeah, right, exactly. The initial challenge was 2 weeks. I was like, yeah, I'll do 2 weeks, and then I came up with 50 chapter ideas.
Wow.
So then it became 2 months.
And the chapter ideas, was that crowdsourced as well, or this kind of like started writing itself as you started to think about it?
Writing itself as I started to think about it. So I don't know if I have an issue list here, which I can show you.
But I guess the important thing is that you needed like a push to get started, but once you get started, it just kind of like snowballed, right?
It snowballed, definitely. I think especially with writing, it's easier to just vomit a whole bunch of ideas without without much order, and it actually takes more effort to write a short thing that is concise and useful than a long thing. So one of my ambitions for version 2 of this book is that I want to make it 2 to 3 times shorter, because I think that increases the value rather than decreases it. But yeah, I have 50 chapter ideas. Oh, I think I know where it was. I use GitHub projects. There it is, writing. And I made a whole bunch of issues here on the left, and then I moved them to the right. So basically just really treating the book process like a software project that I was delivering, right? Break it up into steps and then make it intractable steps, and make some notes on like what I wanted to write on, and then turn those into chapters.
And were you doing this full time, or was this kind of like a side gig alongside your day job?
While I was doing this, it was full time. It was something like 8 to 10 hours a day of writing, every single day, because it happened that I had really bad timing. I had quit a job in February. No, I quit my job in February of 2020, and then COVID hit.
Right at that
It's
time.
the worst
Yes.
time. Yeah. So I was like, all right, I got some time on my hands. So I'll just run to do this. It was fine because like I had like, it wasn't like I was going to be poor. Like, I had multiple offers. I quit with some job security, but and I knew like I wanted some time to myself to just decompress between jobs.
Sabbatical.
So yeah, exactly. Exactly. It was a 2-month sabbatical, and it turned into 3 months because of some like visa issues that we don't have to get into. But ultimately, like it was just a full-time job that was a short-term sabbatical. I totally like that idea of calling a sabbatical. Any other questions? Because I feel like I'm rambling a little bit.
No, that's fine. I mean, this is really interesting, and I love the idea of, again, like applying software engineering, right, to like some of the other things that we do in life. Like, I see you using like GitHub issues, and you have like a GitHub projects, and there's a board.
Oh yeah.
So like this is all fully. This is like a service, right? Like you have a fully planned out like sprint planning session to write your book.
I asked for like potential editors, and they sent me PRs on my.
That's fantastic.
I love how you approached writing a book from such like a software engineer point of view, where you have like a Kanban board and like everything's in GitHub, and you accept pull requests for editors. It's like it's such a it's like I wouldn't say it's over-engineer, but it's such an engineering thing to do to write.
Engineering. I mean, you know, I'm writing a book for software engineers. Why not?
Yes,
and it makes sense.
The other thing that if you take this open source approach, I mean, this is not open source. This is kind of closed source. But I actually sold access to this repo.
Oh.
Right? If you want to see how the sausage was made, with all the issues, with the PRs, with
that's
all the,
interesting.
You know, the junk, because if you want to make a you know this thing yourself, then I had a high the high price tier where you know you could request access and I'll give you access and have a bunch of people with access. How do I show you who? Okay, I won't show you who has access because I think that's a privacy issue. But yeah, I mean I think you can always sell the parts, you know, as you go along it if you make it compelling enough. And so I had some intentionality of like I was gonna sell it. Yeah. So some of the stuff that I would sell, for example, I would record live streams of me writing the book. And I would take down, after the live stream was done, I would take down the live stream and then I would upload it as a paid thing for people who are interested in the process.
Oh.
So yeah, this is taking a while to load right now.
So as you're talking about that, it makes me think of some Manning Publishing, not to plug Manning, but I know they do like an MEAP, early access program.
Early
so
access
like you
program.
could pay for the book and you can see a couple of chapters early on. But I feel like this is that on steroids because you're sharing the repo, you have videos in the background, like, and you're sharing the entire process and not just like the early published versions of chapters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
exactly.
I think what's smart about this as well is that when you're thinking of a side project or a side hustle, you're not just focusing on the end result and trying to sell that, but you're actually selling the process as well and showing other people how to get started in this, which I think is very smart. I wouldn't have thought of that myself, and I think it's great.
Yeah, and it was marketing, you know, obviously, because I think as you write the book, book writing is a very lonely process. You need to keep up attention, interest, desire, and action for the book. ADA is a very common marketing phrase for those who don't know. And so I live streamed this whole process, and people were asking me questions in the chat. Like it was all live stream. I was basically sharing the book's contents for free online. I just took it down afterwards, right? Like, so you have to follow me. You have to get invested in the story to see the work in progress. And then I sold the video. So that was that.
Yeah, that's very cool. So you've taken us through the journey of, you know, you decided to write a book. You know, we've seen like how you've self-published it with Softcover, I think is what it was called.
Softcover, yep.
And then now we've seen the repo and how you planned it out, and we've seen like pretty much like the structure. So we know kind of like how you did the book, right? So when you get to the point that, okay, my book is ready to be sold, right? And I want to plug in, you know, credit card payment stuff. And like you said, like you don't want to do it yourself, right? You want, you know, use a service or something like that. Like what was your decision tree structure look like? Because I'm going to guess that you probably played around with a couple of different things and you're like, okay, this is the one that best fits what I'm trying to do.
I want to offer one more thing for aspiring book authors. So the reason I picked softcover is I think so. This is how it turned out in PDF format. You want to have nice layouts with like the ability to customize quotes. Let me see if I can get you a quote. So like quotes like this. Like there's a lot of like a layout issue. It's basically CSS, but worse because you have to write it in LaTeX. But then also the problem is replicated in PDF, Mobi, and EPUB. And when I surveyed my audience, unfortunately, people wanted 1/3 each. People were split 3 ways. So you have to find a platform that does each of them. I think Mobi is now deprecated, so maybe you could just get by with only PDF and EPUB. But when I was writing this, I had to do 3 platforms, and it was a pain to test it. So I just
have a physical version of the book as well, like actual print.
I do not, because basically it's a very link heavy book.
Right.
So I want to leave rabbit holes, and I don't like the UX of footnotes, right?
Yeah.
So I just want people to click.
That makes sense.
There's 1,500 links in there for people to go deep, and my goal is for this to be a comprehensive handbook. So I gave my sources. Like if you want to learn everything that I've learned, I gave the synopsis here, but really if you want to go deep, you click on this link and you go deep. And people message me all the time. I think I keep a Discord of book feedback. I just talking about yesterday. Just finished reading the book. The best thing about the book is the resources mentioned, and here's the reading progress.
Wow.
He just took so long because he has so many resources. I even wrote a script for the bibliography, which I'm pretty proud of. Where is the bibliography?
What does the script do?
It basically goes through and extracts all the links from Markdown. So scrapelinks.js, it just kind of goes through and then just scrapes some stuff, and then it outputs the bibliography into scrapelinks.md. And then these are just all the links. And so why is this important? Because when people read on Kindle, they want to have the links on their phone because Kindle doesn't work well with links. So
it's got a web browser, but it's crap. Yeah.
Exactly. I give them a separate PDF with the links, with the link that is mentioned and the URL in plain text, so they can click on it and read it on their phone if they wish.
Oh, that's cool. So this bibliography you're saying is a separate download from the book. So there's a book,
yeah,
and then there's a Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff. There is workshops. There's the audio book where I read, the book. That's this bibliography right here. There's the audio book where I read the book myself, and people like that. People like to listen to books on long drives.
I didn't know there was an audiobook version. So tell me, how did you create that? Did you just I mean, obviously you recorded
sat
it
in front of a mic for 20 hours.
You just well, sure, but then I'm also thinking, did you just like read it and zip it up in a thing and then like here you go?
Yeah.
Or
it's just a bunch of audio files. I made sure the metadata was good. So you need to like make sure like, okay, this is chapter 1, and make sure it's like reflected correctly in the metadata.
Yeah.
But it's not that hard. The hard part is just narrating in a non-cringy way.
Yeah.
And also whenever you have any diagrams, making the diagrams come across in audio is a little challenging. I settled. Okay, so there's a thing in Amazon called Whisper Sync. Have you guys heard about this? Where if you have the audio version and the text version, if you switch from one format to the other, Whisper Sync will actually do that for you. But the only requirement is the words have to line up. The problem is the words will not line up if you choose to describe
the
diagrams. So I decided to abandon Whisper Sync. But it's a concern when I talk to other authors. It's a concern for people because they like to switch modes, right? They're like, okay, I got to this page on my Kindle. Now I'm in my car. I want to fire up Audible and just carry up where I left off. That is, probably a little bit over engineering, but it would have been nice. But I am a very, very visual person, so. Yeah. I like my diagrams, but no. So here's the audiobook. It's just chapters, and I saw Kent C. Dodds load it into his podcast player, which is really nice. So nice. Yeah.
Oh, so there's like individual, like an MP3 per chapter kind of thing.
Yeah, MP3 per chapter, and then also you just want to make sure the info is correct, whatever it is, just chapters and.
But will you have to re-record a bunch of the stuff if you release a new version of the book?
Of course. That's why it's more work, but people like it. People really, really like it. Yeah. So, but you just charge more for it. It's a separate tier. And so, yeah, one thing I will say is reading through the book helps you correct so much of your awkward phrasing and fixed typos. So I read every single word that I typed, and I got comments saying, this is the book that with very high quality for something that's sort of indie hacked and not professionally edited. I did pay for editing, but it was very expensive. But yeah, I think it really gives you that polish because when people read it to themselves, like it flows because you've read it.
I'm wondering, because now like all those audio files you have in my head are like a different production. So other than just reading, like were there other things that you had to do there? Like I know some people when they do their audiobooks, like there's intro, outro music, or there's, there might be sound effects that like highlight particular aspects of things that are happening. Did you do all of that, or was it just a straight?
No, it's just play straight.
Read it out.
Yeah, I like it's not a skill of mine. You know what I mean? So no, I didn't do that. But a friend of mine, what's his face, Rob Hope, did an audiobook version. So he did a book, then he did an audiobook version of it. And he did do some SFX, sound effects on his things. But it's very light. I think if you do too much, it can get annoying. Because you're not doing an audio play or whatever. It's just really, really nice. And he has a nice South African accent, which is pretty exotic. I don't find my accent very attractive.
Got it.
But yeah, he'll have like a, when he talks about something getting killed, he'll have like a murder sound, like a dagger, and then a woman screaming. Yeah, exactly. Just something corny, but like it's fun. It breaks up the experience of listening to the audiobook. So I wish I could have done that, but it's just not a competitive advantage of mine. So I just played it straight.
Yeah, nice. Okay. So let's talk about the payment stuff, right? So
yeah.
How did you get people to integrate into paying into Softcover?
Yeah. Well, so Softcover just produces the PDF, right? So static assets, and then you just need a place to host it, and then you need a place for people to pay. So when I announced the sales, this was on Gumroad, because Stripe Checkout wasn't around at the time, and Gumroad is it really markets itself as like the first place that you want to start as an indie creator, because we'll take care of the landing page for you. And guess what? The landing page trips up even developers, right? Like, surprise, like, sure, you can put up an HTML page in a static site, but to make a landing page is a product with like e-commerce implications of copywriting, with like conversion optimization that you need to handle. Which is also kind of the Stripe Checkout sales pitch. But anyway, so this is Gumroad. I've made 17,000 on Gumroad so far. And here's the landing page. It's a very every Gumroad page looks the same. It's intentionally constrained, because you don't want to think too much about this, right? Just what's the title, what's the thing, what's the social proof, blah blah blah.
Yeah, here's the information, generate, put it in the template, and let's go.
Yeah, let's go, right? Like you're not here to set yourself apart from on the landing page. You're just here to set yourself apart on the content and how awesome it is. So you can make a few tiers.
It's a little 90s.
I think it's intentional. So this is a new design that they've introduced. I don't know if you can edit it. I don't know. Yeah, I mean I haven't used this for a long time. So I resurrected this old page just so we could show it for this live stream. So one thing I do like about them is that, like, yeah, it's very constrained, right? You can only do text, you can only do whatever. But if you want to have social proof, if you want to have quotes and other links and fancy formatting, if you want to show it's a premium book, right? Like I eventually decided I was going to have a $60 book. Most of the PDFs that are sold here are $9, $19, right? And so if people want to be given a premium experience when they purchase, and if you do the same thing that everyone else is doing, then you're not really justifying that $59 purchase.
Yeah.
Right. So I went for a customized landing page with highlightable text that like links out to the podcast that I did, that gives me a lot more social proof, that links out to interviews with faces that people recognize. All of this I could not do on Gumroad. Right.
Yeah.
So very, very important for that. I was also bidding YouTube videos to sell the community. Blah blah blah. Okay. So Gumroad was fine. And then the other thing I really wanted to do was like email. I wanted to engage my audience, and then I wanted to offer a community for people to chat. So the one that really did all of that was Podia, and Podia. It's kind of an all-in-one. It's kind of like Gumroad plus. They give you the landing page, they give you the email list, they give you downloads, coaching community, and then courses. And I wanted to maybe offer courses as well. Like if you want to write a book, here's how you do it. And webinars. They also had an affiliate program. I think Gumroad also had an affiliate program. Like a lot of these features will overlap, and you just have to develop some judgment as to what they have. And then just looking at the website design as well. So I really wanted to try to keep it low code. But the problem with Podia was that the design was just very constrained. It kind of looked like this. This is the Podia site, and it was just very, very bare bones. And for example, I had 3 packages. There's the creator package, community package, and the handbook, right? If I wanted to have team versions of all those, so if you want 5 of these, then I just had to create a new product. And then 10 of these, and create a new product. And it just like looked very spammy because I was working around the system. The system was working against me, right? It wasn't customizable to the extent that I could sell just the base layer of stuff and then the team layer of stuff. And then when I updated, for example, this is a superset of this is a superset of this, right? Like if I wanted to update the base tier, I would have to then update the middle tier, then I have to update the top tier. There's just a lot of stuff that like I just didn't like wrangling. And also I think the support wasn't that useful as well. So that's eventually what got me towards to Stripe and Stripe checkout in particular. And there's another thing that I'll call out, which was something that Patrick actually mentioned. So people in 2021, so fast forwarding a year now, Peter levels moved to Stripe checkout, and it improves signups, improves optimization. So it's not a scientific A/B test, but I think he has some volume. And I thought this was interesting. I thought it was worth trying. I think, for sure, Stripe just knows better than I do about conversion. So I did the same thing. I moved from Podia to Stripe checkout, and conversion went up 20% for 2 hours of work. So yeah, I'll pause there in case anyone has like questions or comments. It has internationalization, PCI receipts. Yeah, receipts were also useful as well. I don't know. This is a good endorsement for Stripe checkout, at least from
that's very cool. I'm just looking in the chat really quick, and yeah, there's definitely some folks that are commenting, and folks definitely love what you're showing. Our friend here, Mike from YouTube, is asking, "Hey, does softcover work well with books that contain JS syntax?" I'm guessing he's asking about the syntax highlighting support in softcover.
Yeah, I don't see why not. It's softcover was meant as a technical publishing stack for technical books, so of course, it does Ruby, but like whatever, sure. It's just syntax highlighting, and it's if you can do Ruby, you can do JavaScript.
Right, for sure. Cool.
So the checkout optimization thing, I'll talk a little bit about like some of the behind the scenes stuff here that we kind of the magic that we do behind the curtain is that one of the things that we do to get this kind of result is we actually look at where the person is coming from, so their geographical location, and then we determine what payment methods to show you based on that. So for instance, if you are based in the Netherlands, then you might see Ideal at the very top, which is the local payment method. Or if you're in Singapore, you might see GrabPay show up on the page instead. And we found that if people see a payment method that they use and they don't have to scroll down or try to find it from a drop-down list, if it's just the first thing that's there, your conversion rates kind of skyrockets. Part of that. So it's one of the kind of clever things that checkout does for you that you don't have to then think about yourself. And it as you showed, it works. It's the kind of
keep going. What else? Keep going. I'm sure that's only the top one.
Well, also obviously, as you can see here, we at the very top, we've got the Google Pay button shows up automatically. It's doing that because it's detected that you are in Chrome. If you opened up this page in Safari, and if you had something in your Apple Wallet, then it will probably show the Apple Pay button on top there instead.
Oh, I don't have.
If you don't have anything in your wallet, it's not going to work. But if you did, and if you use Safari or any other WebKit browser, then you should see the Apple checkout button at the top. So,
hey,
don't click on that. But
wow.
There it is.
There you go. It's okay. I'm just paying myself. I'll pay you guys the 3% or whatever.
Yeah. So in this case, because it's detected that you are somewhere in the United States, it kind of shows you a credit card option first, because in the US that is the most popular payment method. But if you were somewhere in Europe, for instance, if you were in Belgium, then it would say like, here's band contact that you can use instead. So it's clever stuff like that we use.
Yeah. So the other platforms would not be doing anything like this. I heard that like in Indonesia you have to like send a fax or some, like it's just a very very antiquated stuff for e-commerce.
I won't
quiz you on Indonesia. But yeah. So okay, we could go into tech stack and some code if that is of interest to people.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's take a look into it.
So essentially, like once I went from Gumroad to Podia, and I was like, I'm gonna move to Stripe checkout. Then and like, look, I want more control than this, right? This is not a premium experience. I'm sorry, it's not. So once I was like, okay, I'm gonna take over the design, which I was really kind of putting off because I'm not a designer. I paid someone to do this site. Fortunately, he was a friend, so it was a very cheap site. You know, he added in the animation details like this one. But the thing is like this. So this is hostable on any static site host. You know, I worked at Netlify, but for this one, I actually went with begin.com. And it was a Svelte site. So let me just, where is the code? Did I get rid of it? Huh, I think I got rid of it. Why did I'm sure I did not close it down. Codingcareer.com. There we go. So it's a very, very basic site. This is open source, so I'll stick it in the comments for people. I can't see. Okay, I don't have access to comments, but I'll just post it in our private chat so you can.
Yeah, if you put it in private, I could post it for you.
Yeah, so this is open source, and it's kind of an old code base, but I just don't need to update it that much. And what really matters is that you need to create a payment intent for Stripe checkout, right? When someone has decided to buy something, you need to, it's not a simple buy, like click to buy now. You'll notice when I hover over this, there's no link down here. It's actually executed through JavaScript. So I think if I search buy now, we'll just kind of start exploring the site a little bit. Is this it? No, I think this is it. Yeah, where's the how do I okay, I know how to navigate this. So I'm just gonna put all my Stripe stuff in a serverless function, and it's basically just going to have some presets, some secrets for my book stuff. And so you need some kind of very minimal backend, and a serverless function is a minimal backend, where it has the final destination link for people to create, as well as the products IDs. So I think for those who haven't seen a Stripe dashboard before, you have to set up all these products inside of the Stripe dashboard, and then each of them has product IDs. And so essentially, what you end up doing is you these are publicly listable. It's fine because you just have to like create a price. I don't actually know why this is this. I think for security, right? Like you don't get people sort of randomly sending a price that they want to charge themselves. And so essentially, we're just going to create a Stripe checkout session. We're going to apply whatever coupons have been detected, and then we're going to on success, we're going to redirect them towards the fulfillment session, which Stripe Checkout doesn't do, right? Like Stripe Checkout is only the payment processing thing. It doesn't host my PDF. It doesn't host my audiobook. So I have to redirect them to the actual thing that people are paying for, which is essentially a link to the community where they can download my handbook, download the audiobook, join the community, discuss with other users, blah, 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 right? So that's essentially the entire, Stripe relevant version portion of this. The only thing that's fancy is the coupons. So I haven't really shown you the coupons here, and I just said coupon to uppercase here. So where are the coupons? I get it off of the URL.
Okay.
So it's just like coupon code blah blah blah, and then it gets parsed. And so I have Black Friday 50% off. I have whatever other coupon code. And the way that this works is that I'll have like coupon code C equals to, I don't know, Stripe dev chats 90, right? And this will give you a 90% discount on everything that I purchased. On this, that's a huge discount, right? And you're like, whoa, wow, you mean I could just type in anything, up in the URL bar and it'll just work? No, because obviously I also need to create it inside of Stripe, right? Where's the coupon place? I don't know. It's in products or something. There's a coupon thing. If I show it, I'll give away all the coupons. So I won't show it. But the idea is I wanted dynamic coupons. I wanted it to be easy to create. I wanted to be able to, it's like for every podcast that I'm on, I have a custom coupon, right? That has the amount of discount embedded in it, and I'll just read the discount off of it. But still, like the security is prevented. Like people can't just make up their own coupons because I have to manually create that coupon myself on the back end. So if it's not recognized, it will just error. And so to me, those are kind of the design constraints in which I was aiming for. I also wanted to offer team stuff and all that. None of this is particularly fancy. But yeah, any questions based on that? Like, I think I just walked through the code. It's not a lot of code.
Well, I think that's the good thing, right? One, it's not a lot of code, and the integration was pretty seamless for you, right? So like the work for you was in writing the book and not integrating Stripe, which obviously is what we want to do, right? We want to get out of your way and make it as easy as possible for you to like collect payments. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I love that your entire Stripe integration is basically just 80 lines of code, and a lot of that is just is linking out your environmental variables. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Right. And so like the only reason I have 80 lines of code is because I have this requirement that I need to redirect based on whatever products was purchased. I have this requirement that I have dynamic coupons. I just have custom requirements, right? So I need to use this sort of checkout sessions create API, which I'll be honest, like not my favorite API because I don't know what this like session creating thing. I just want to pay. I just want to charge people. But I think you guys released payment links, right? Which actually was really inspiring for me, right? Like this. So I actually created this video where I talked a little bit about like what's going on, right? Like Stripe checkout was responsible for this stuff between your customer and yourself. It combines the payment intent, it combines the UI, it combines some server side stuff. But payment links is the sort of the front end in front of all of that, right? And I actually did this video where I actually went through and deleted all that code because I could just replace it with just a simple payment link inside of there. So if you have a simple enough requirement, you can just generate a payment link that links directly to a Stripe product. Doesn't have any like fancy coupon stuff. Doesn't have any dynamics or redirect stuff that's going on there. But if you have a simple enough requirement, payment links are all you need. You don't need a backend. You just have a static HTML site. That's enough.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love how again easy this was for you to kind of plug it in. And were you're using Svelte here, right? And so I think we have a Svelte SDK for Stripe, don't we, Paul? Or like there's a community SDK for Stripe.
There's a community one, I think. I don't think we have an official one ourselves.
Yeah, you don't need like I think this trend of having framework wrappers for every single framework is not sustainable, not scalable. You only do that because React is such a weird animal, but Svelte, because it speaks HTML, the first language of the web, it integrates with vanilla JS solutions perfectly fine. So
yeah, I've played around with Svelte as well, and I completely agree that we don't really need like a wrapper SDK for like you don't need like a Svelte elements, for instance, because
like a specific component for it.
It's just HTML and JavaScript, so you can just
it's going to work with your web components. It's going to work. Exactly. Yeah, it's going to work with your regular HTML.
You don't need anything else.
That's why I also started moving away from React, but that's a different conversation.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
But so I'll leave this in here. Sorry, go ahead.
So, question for you, Shawn: are you using webhooks as well for your purchase fulfillment, or are you just looking at the redirect URL from when people complete their checkout session?
Yeah, I'm just doing I'm just supplying a redirect URL. I should so this is a problem when the redirect doesn't work. Sometimes about 10% of the time, people will buy a purchase and then their ad blocker helpfully blocks them from the redirect URL. And then they email me.
Close the tab before they get redirected. That happens a lot as well.
Yeah, exactly. So if I were to be a professional about this, which I should, I should also send a follow-up email, right, based on a webhook and saying, thanks for your purchase, blah blah blah. All right, and Stripe doesn't help me do that yet. Maybe Stripe could, but yeah. So yeah, those are improvements that I could and should do. I just haven't prioritized it yet. I have other hooks. I have other functions for just analytics, but honestly I don't really check them at all. But yeah, so I think people always love numbers. The title of this is the $200,000 side hustle. We're not exactly at $200,000, we're 177, but it's not bad. And this is just the Stripe platform revenue, right? Excludes Gumroad revenue, excludes direct sales that I've done. That people have sent me bulk purchases for 100 books for my company, so I've definitely crossed 200. It's just not all on Stripe. I think this is. Book was released June 2020.
So this is about just over 2 years of worth of sales.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. And obviously, you know, the big spike comes at launch.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, it's a surprisingly stable income month to month, which is pretty surprising. And then so every now and then you'll get like a nice bump because someone shouts it out who's influential or whatever.
Yeah.
I think if I was more serious about promoting it, I could do a lot better sales. So the book was originally patterned on Cracking the Coding interview.
Right.
And this book makes something like $2 million a year. Just by, you know, just obviously word of mouth, but also just nailing the category of like, you want interview prep, this is the book to get, right? And so everyone gets it, even if they don't finish it.
I think every single engineer who's ever done an interview knows and has purchased this book or has seen parts of it at least.
Right. And even though like it's actually like not that useful. I don't know if like this is a heretical thing to say, but like they have like stuff on red black balancing trees in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I've interviewed a few times at Google, and like I never needed any of that, right? Like no one has time in a 45-minute interview to write a self-rebalancing tree, you know, or some of the more complicated stuff. It'll teach you, you know, dynamic programming principles for sure. Like and so some parts of it I think are still relevant. Some parts of it are maybe out of date now because no one asked that kind of question. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not like I've been to every interview on Earth, so I'm sure some people get those questions. But yeah, you know, I think there is a long tail. I think you know, this is the reality of like where we're at, and yeah, I just wanted to show people, inspire people, and yeah, answer any questions.
Yeah, this was definitely great to see. Again, looking at the chat, a lot of folks have been talking about, hey, I wanted to publish a book. I didn't know what to do or what to use. And so like just the little tidbits that you've shared have been really useful for folks already. But I'm sure for folks that have watched the recording too. So we'll make sure we, we'll make sure we share with, in our blog posts and newsletters and stuff like that, so other folks could watch it. My big question for you now, or my last question for you now, I guess I should say, is so now that you've done this stuff and you're like the machine is like working right all by itself, like do you have any other projects that you're thinking about creating? Are you writing another book or video series or a course or anything like that?
Yeah, so I've just been working on this one. So like I do have a community for the book, and we do talk regularly. I had a weekly meetup for the book where I went through chapter by chapter. We had a book club discussion on it, and then I just want to, like, instead of writing 10 books for over 10 years, I'd much rather work on one book for 10 years, and by the end of the 10 years it'll be a very good book. And I think that's something that, like, persistence and just like continuous refinement of quality is lacking from a lot of info products. Like, a lot of things are just one-off quick money cash grabs. But if you know something has been invested in for a long time, it's much more worth your while to actually read it. Like, that amount of time and investment has been put into it. Right. And so yeah, I'd much rather work on one thing than 10 things. I will say that, like, so after making 6 figures on a book, like, you're supposed to quit your job. you're supposed to like quit the rat race and go, like, I'm never working for the man again. So what I started writing is about the part-time creator manifesto, like why I think it's worthwhile having a day job and having the side hustle. And it's really this cycle where the day job feeds into the side project, and the side project feeds into the day job. And so I go into it in this blog post a little bit.
Cool. And I'm going to share that with everyone too, so they can take a read through that. I think I want to read through that too, because I'm definitely interested in hearing your perspective on how that works.
Yeah. Let me see if I've got anything else for you. I think that was it. Yeah. I if you search my Twitter, like, I have a lot of comments along the way on, like, how things are going. I try not to be too promotional, because people get really turned off if you're constantly shilling your book. But it's just nice to show people, like, oh, here's where I was in 2020. I made $80,000, and here's the progress at that time. And people like to see work in progress, and you always get a bump in sales. Like this is just bragging. This is just like, oh my god, well, whatever. And then this like, success generates more success. So people definitely exploit this quite a bit. I try not to do it too much. Just once every, let's say, 3 to 6 months, I'll say, just remind people you have a book, right? Because and I think that's the right balance of not being too promotional, but reminding people like, hey, there's a paid tier to you if you want to be a content creator online.
Yeah, I agree with a little bit of humble bragging because, again, kind of like what you said, like when folks see that you're being successful, like they want to follow the story, right?
Yeah.
So I definitely
like,
appreciate that.
I'm not trying to teach people how to quit their jobs and all that. I'm just showing like, hey man, I think this is a fun project. It's definitely paid for my rent and plus and more.
Sure.
And it's helped me become essentially like a beast when I negotiate for job offers, because I will not, like, I can make this on my own. I don't need you to make six figures. To work for you, I need to make a lot more than that. So
Yeah.
it's just a mindset there. I've done a talk on this as well. If people want more advice, so this was when I was at 50K. So you can go onto my website and check out this talk. And then I've just done a bunch of podcasts and other stuff on just like documenting along the way the stuff that I thought. So
right. Cool.
I think that's what I have for people. I
Cool.
wonder if I.
Well, Shawn, again, that's been great. Thank you so much for coming on. So we're at about time now. So I guess I want to say this has been very insightful for sure. I mean, I've learned a lot of stuff, and I'm sure Paul has as well, and everyone else that's watching. I'm definitely going to dig through some of those links and some of those resources you shared. We're going to make sure we put them in the description too. So for folks that are interested in learning more about them, that they could read through those as well. And anytime at all, do you have anything else really cool that you want to come on the show and share? Like, we'd love to have you come back on and talk about like, anything else that you're creating or talks you're doing or courses you're creating and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. I just want to give back to the community. Like, I've benefited so much from Stripe and Stripe Checkout, and I obviously I admire you guys a lot. I was inspired by people before me, and so I hope people are inspired by my story, and they do their own stuff and they do better than me and show me what's possible. Because I think we're only cracking the surface of what's possible with this part-time creator stuff. So thanks for having me.
Appreciate it, man. All right, folks. Well, this has been another Stripe Dev Chats. I hope you all join us again next week. We're going to have some more guests coming on and talking about some of the cool things that you could do with Stripe and some of your applications you're building. But until then, take care, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.